Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Behind the Leazes podcast. Sadly, no Liam this week, but we are joined with Rob and Adam as usual. Lads, how are you feeling after yesterday's game? Adam, you were there. How are you feeling, mate?
Tired. I'm ticked off. I'm annoyed. I'm like this every single week, to be honest, so it's nothing new. But it's just a joke. It really is a joke at this point. It's got international break now. Thank God, because we did get some of these players back. But yeah, that was the worst performance by an team I've seen this season.
Rob, how are you feeling? I know you've seen a little of the game. How are you feeling after it?
Yeah, I'll just see him again. I've seen all the reaction. It's the same it's been all season. I don't know why I expect anything different. Kind of glad that I didn't take up the option to go, to be honest, because when we did score and it was 1-1, I'm thinking, are we going to do something here? And then lo and behold, we managed to lose it. But again, it's just same story, different day. Unfortunately, as I say, I don't know why I expect anything different every week.
Yeah, we'll start with early in the half. Obviously, Wolves went 1-0 up through Hwang Hee-chan, who eventually got their second. Pans to the bench, and our message in the group chat saying, "I'm turning off because Jeff Hendrick's coming on." That comes back to bite us, and Jeff Hendrick scores. Look, I don't like him, so I'm going to give a harsh view. He does nearly miss an open goal. It clips the post, but. Adam, what was your reaction when you see Joe Willock going off, quite angrily going off? He wanted to stay on, and then see Jeff Hendrick coming up off the bench to come on the pitch.
Well, it's how mandatory to begin with, because he's already went down twice before he has to get taken off. So if he went down a second time, I'm sure he would bring him off straight away. But no, he tries to play him on, he tries to get him. It's worse for him. He's obviously going to get injured in the game because he's pulled a muscle or something. So the fact he kept him on was ridiculous, and eventually went down a third time. So obviously he's going to be injured. But yeah, in terms of the midfield itself, I actually thought Hendrick was the best out of the three midfielders. That's how bad I thought Hayden and Longstaff were. They were absolutely shocking in that game. Hayden especially, because he's had so much experience. He was awful. He was awful yesterday. Longstaff as well. I felt he gave away the first goal. And the midfield is a shambles. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I can't wait until Shelby's back, because we're going to have someone actually to ping the ball forward. We've got nothing going forward with that midfield at the minute. God, it's awful.
Yeah, you mentioned about Shelby pinging the ball forward. The problem is, though, we've only got St. Max up top to ping balls up to at the minute. You see, that's where we are losing the majority of our possession at the minute. And you got onto your Hayden, Adam. It must be infuriating for a player coming on. You're getting told you play in one position, and then Bruce halfway into the half, a 1-0 down, says we're playing 5 at the back. Rob, what's your thinking on that? How would you feel as if you were Hayden getting chopped and changed where you're playing all the time?
It's not great for anyone, and it's tough because, as I said, we need to change something, and Brucey's just completely clutching at straws. He does. For me, I think he's lost the dressing room. I think the players aren't playing for him. No one looks bothered. We're very much a team at the moment where if things are going all right, and we're playing in that Watford game, and we had a bit of confidence going forward, and we looked a lot better. But the minute things go wrong, heads drop, and we look shocking. It's having players on the pitch who can pick the ball up and make something of a game. I think St. Max is that player, but he can't do it on his own. I think Wilson's that player. We need him back. I think Willock was for us last season, but again, it's a lot of pressure on him to come back and to do exactly what is expected. I think you look at some of the players like Hayden. I know Adams just said he had a shocker yesterday. I think he's been a shadow of himself this season of what we know he can be. You look at what Longstaff was 3 years ago. Was one of the first names on the team sheet. He's still got the ability. You don't just lose it overnight. But for whatever reason, Lascelles at one point. He's still club captain. At one point he was an absolute world beater, and now he's not even getting in the team. So, and Fernandez, I think for me, Fernandez had a shocker in the last goal. He's a slow centre back, and he's an old man basically at this point. And as much as I think he's ability to read the game and play the ball out at times, I think he's possibly one of the best centre backs we've got. But that's really saying something when I think he was possibly at fault for both of the goals yesterday, just letting the man run through and not picking him up, but being 2 yards behind the pace. So I think that's why he's looking at Fernandez is having a bit of a stinker here. Let's stick Hayden in at the back and try and save it that way. But it's just constant patchwork repairs. There's no actual structure or system to what we're doing. It's just we'll just change a few things around and hope it fixes itself, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah, a funny one with Fernandez. I think they even tried to change it up by changing his name as well. But he's ended up with Mankio's shirt on. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
One thing that was really visible though was St. Maximin's frustrations. I think his patience is running out with the club. Adam, what did you think of Maximin's performance yesterday? I mean, he's the only player everyone's got their eye on in the club at the minute.
Well, when you look at the team itself, yes, he was one of the better players yesterday, but he struggled. There was no options for him. Even when he had the boys getting tackled constantly, I mean, you can't expect him to be good in every single match. I mean, he's only one player. You can't expect him to carry us all season long, but it just shows again how much we need Callum Wilson. There's no man in the box. There's no man to make the runs. I mean, we can't score goals. The fact we scored a goal yesterday was a complete fluke, to be honest, because, I mean, the keeper's on his backside and Jeff Emmy's got a chance of 25 yards and he's put it in, but, I mean, yeah, it was a fluke. We should have lost that game 3 or 4. In fact, before we even got the equaliser, Wolves missed a sit-up from about 5 yards out. So, I mean, yeah, the fact that it was only 2-1 yesterday was a miracle because that was not a 2-1 game at all. We were battered. We didn't have anything going forward. I mean, it's a disgrace. In terms of the back line, I think it's the worst defence in the Premier League. Us and Norwich both conceded 16 goals. Norwich got a clean sheet yesterday, and again, they played some of the best teams in the league. Man U's the only world-class team we played this season, and bear in mind they're on and off as well. All the other teams we play are just between good to average teams. I mean, we haven't even played our best fixtures so far in this campaign yet. I mean, we are screwed. We are absolutely screwed. Who are we going to beat? I mean, I can't say it's beating anyone. It's just a nightmare. I mean, it really is the Titanic sinking at this point. It's only hit the iceberg. There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, Adam, to give you a stat there, we've played 18th, 17th, 16th and 14th so far this season not got a win. And then we've got Spurs next and then Chelsea after that. You're completely right, mate. I can't see where a win is going to come from. And again, what you were saying about Maximin going forward, and that's where you can see his frustrations because he's getting in positions to get the ball in the box and there's absolutely no one there. Joe Linton's halfway down the back of the defence. It's just you've got Willock goes off, who's your attacking midfielder really. Miggy goes off, and it's just you would want to use the phrase organised chaos, but none of it's organised at all. We'll move on to the Spurs game because I think we've been left with not much to talk about from the Wolves game. I mean, it never really helps that it's the 3 o'clock kickoff, so not many people get to see it if it's away. But Spurs haven't beat Spurs at home since that 5-1 game, the last game of the season before we went down under Rafa. The last time out was a 2-2 draw. Following before that, we had a 1-1 draw. So if we're going to get something against Spurs, it's probably a point. And the last time we beat Spurs was under Bruce, away from home. Joe Linton was the hero. Do you think that's going to be the case again, that we're relying on someone like Joe Linton to get a goal, Adam? Rob, sorry.
Probably, yeah. Well, Joe Linton likes to play against Spurs for some reason, so hopefully he can get a goal. I mean, as I say, we do this every week. Yeah, I'm going to try and now tell you why we might actually do something, even though I'm probably completely wrong. I mean, we're lucky that Spurs are on a run of 3 defeats in a row, despite being the only team to win their first 3 games of the season. They've then gone on and lost the last 3. So, I mean, our form is technically better in the last 3 games. We've had 2 draws and a loss, and they've lost the last 3. I mean, they've played some slightly better teams than we have, but as I say, all we can do is hope for the best. I mean, the next problem with it as well, and I think what's frustrating everyone is, obviously, we did not make the use of the transfer window. One player is not enough for a Premier League team who almost got relegated last season and now compete and expect to do any better. So for me, I think Bruce needs to go, to be honest. And I know people are saying that, like, what's it going to change? You know, can someone else really come in and make a difference at this point? People are talking about Eddie Howe. I'm even at the point where I think get Bruce out and just let Graham Jones have a go, because honestly, We need to do something here. And we can't bring in players. And you just think, can someone else get a better tune out of these guys? I know we've seen Rafa get a better tune out of them, and I don't want to bang on about him again. But, we have seen it. This is the same squad we had 3 years ago. Yes, everyone's a little bit older now, but they've not honestly just woke up and lost all their ability. But that's the way we're playing at the moment. And as we say, taking on Spurs now, the best I can hope for is just the fact that we'll be at home. Hopefully the home crowd can get behind the players. And as I say, they have lost their last 3. Harry Kane's having seemingly a nightmare. I mean, I'm sure he'll turn it on and score a hat-trick against us, but he hasn't been good this season. He doesn't want to be there by the looks of things. Don't think any of our players want to be there either. But well, as I say, let's just hope that St. Max has got his burners on and can just work a miracle for us, to be honest.
Yeah, again, there you're seeing St. Max obviously relying on. I don't know if Callum Wilson will be back by the time the international break's over. Adam, Harry Kane, Son, they're always a threat. Do you think our defence will be able to cope with the likes of those going forward?
Well, firstly, I think Newcastle actually have some advantages going to the game. I think the international break's going to be horrible for Tottenham because they've got a team full of international stars. I mean, I don't want to be that sort of person, but you kind of got to hope that one or two of them may pick up a couple of knocks in the international break or get injured or get tired. I mean, we have got that going for us. I think the likes of Callum Wilson, I think he will be back for that game. He's getting back to training at the minute, so you'd think in 2 weeks' time he'd be back. But are we going to rush him back? Probably. So he'll be back in the show flying in no time. But in terms of the Tottenham game, though, I mean, we've got the home advantage. The Tottenham players are hopefully going to be tired in the international break. We've got to go for it again. Like Rob said, we lost the last 3 games to war for Tottenham, so the heads are going to be down. I mean, if we can't beat a team that's struggling, let's be honest, despite them being a European side, I mean, the results got to pick up now because we haven't picked up results against the teams around us, so we've got to go and beat the big boys. That's how it is. But yeah, against Tottenham, though, we had to go for it. If we lose that game, we've got Palace away. They're quite a mixed side. Then it's Chelsea at home. I mean, the Champions League, well, that's a good look. And then we got Brighton away. I mean, a team that's 4th or 5th in the league. I mean, oh God, we've got some seriously hard fixtures coming up, so we've got to go for it against Tottenham. We need to get the points on nice and early because otherwise it's going to be the bottom 3 for the rest of the season.
Yeah, completely agree, mate. Tottenham, you can never kind of guess how we're going to play against them. We've had a few games where we've been beaten by them quite undeservedly. But you're right, looking at the games ahead, and you mentioned Brighton. Brighton came up at the same time as us. And if you want to look at to compare our club to others and how they should be run and how they should go on, Brighton, Leeds, Villa, they've all came up recently, like same close time to us, and they've all gone about the business perfectly. I mean, yes, they've got better owners than us, and they reinvest player sales. The CET talks were through the week. The arbitrations on the 3rd of January. I think we spoke about it briefly before it happened last week, and that it is at the back of everyone's minds. But the way we're playing it, surely creeping to the front, thinking, Christ, please, something happen in January that's going to help this club go forward. And we've got Spurs and Chelsea next. In Christ, Bruce will still be there. And if this was any other football club, he would have been gone a long time before this season even started. Rob, what's your thoughts like going into January? How are you feeling towards the prospect of the takeover maybe going through?
I mean, again, I mean, the whole thing's a bit confusing, to be honest. I don't think anyone fully understands the extent of exactly what's happening. I've watched a few bits and pieces of what was said during the middle of the week, and again, I've not watched it myself, so I don't know if I'm just repeating stuff that could be made up. To be honest, I don't even know. But some of this talk about how they were threatening to kick us out of the league if we let the Saudis buy us and all this kind of thing, it's just absolute madness. And obviously, I want something to happen with it, but again, I said it last week. Part of us just wonders, is Ashley following all of this up? Because what he really wants is not necessarily to sell the club to these specific owners, or is he seeing a potential payout for himself if he follows through and sues the Premier League and stuff? I mean, if that's what Ashley wants to do, it's what he wants to do, and I don't blame him, because from what it sounds like, it's been a lot of dodgy goings on. But for us as fans, all I want to see is us start doing something on the pitch and actually working towards a brighter future as a club generally. I mean, if someone could say, you know what, screw this, let's just find a different buyer who's going to come in and can pick us up without any issues, I'd be very tempted to just say yes, because how long is this going to last, and how long have we got to watch this dreadful football before something changes? And as I say, even worse, get relegated. And you've look at what happened to Sunderland and various other clubs who left things to chance, and it's all gone downhill. So that's the biggest worry for me. And as I said, if we get relegated, there's no guarantee that Ashley's going to turn around and actually put any money in. And if we do go down, is anyone going to want to buy us down there as well? So as much as I hope and pray that we'll stay in the Prem, you want to actually see some improvement alongside that. I mean, as I say, going into the Spurs game, what one thing we do, and we did it against Manchester United, we actually played quite well for good portions of that game. Sometimes it just takes that playing the bigger team that gets everyone excited, or the players slightly more motivated to actually go out and do something. I think we'll struggle to get 3 points against Spurs, but I actually do think I think we can't play much worse than we played against Wolves. I think we will put in a decent shift, and then hopefully we can bring some reward from it.
Yeah, Adam, you mentioned before we went live that you thought the Wolves' performance was the worst of the season. How do you think we're bounced back from that performance?
Well, it's simple there. The players are injured, need to come back. Like I said before, Wills is the obvious one. The likes of Shelby, Lascelles, yes, I'm not particularly a fan of them, but we need squad depth. It's that simple. We learned the bench yesterday. Obviously, Hendrick had to come on for Willock, but who else was on the bench? Murphy, Gill. I mean, these players aren't going to turn around a match when you're getting slapped by an opposition. It's that simple. I mean, these players aren't good enough. It's obviously that we didn't spend in the transfer window. That's the problem with us. But you mentioned earlier about teams like Brighton, teams like Villa around this. Like, the difference between Brighton and Newcastle is they've got a manager that knows how to play the best 11, knows how to get the best out of their players. Newcastle, on paper, will probably have a better team than Brighton, but the players are lethargic. They don't care. They've got no ambition. And it's backed by a terrible manager and backed by a terrible owner. It's just that's how it is. But yeah, in terms of Rapid as well, I mean, I hate going on about him, but you see his transfer window. Everybody gets like the Townsend and the players that you could argue are finished now. I mean, you can see what they're doing for everything. I mean, they're turning up for 3 sides, getting 3-4 goals. I mean, yeah, we need to sack Bruce. Everyone's been saying this already, but there's no chance we're going to do it because this club just won't refuse to pay the £3 million, which doesn't make any sense because we're going to get relegated. We're going to have to pay loads anyway. So, yeah, I mean, the club's backwards. Everything about it's terrible. I mean, yeah, I'm worrying for the club. I do think we have a massive chance of going down, especially how we haven't got a defence anymore, which used to carry us in previous seasons. I mean, everything about this club is just terrible, and I really can't see how I'm going to turn around.
Yeah, I think if you'd put that lineup out in a championship side yesterday, I don't think you would bat an eyelid. I think maybe Maximin's only the Premier League standard player that played yesterday. Maybe I'm being harsh on Miggy as well. He's always grafting. He's always frustrated when he comes off. It's just January would do quite clearly need to bring someone in. Rob, you mentioned before as well about how people have doubted bringing a change of manager in would change something. I think the players are playing to get him sacked. It's quite clear. I think now it reminds us a lot of when the Leicester lot did it when they wanted rid of Ranieri. Who would be your perfect candidate to bring in?
Well, yeah, I mean, I do understand what people are saying. I just don't necessarily think they're right. As I say, I've heard people say, having to go at Bruce in the stands and this and that and the other, it's not going to make us any better. And I think what they're trying to get at, and it's what Adam said already, is that I don't think Bruce is going to get sacked. Ashley doesn't want to let him go. So if that's the scenario, then maybe we should, basically saying if he's not going to go anywhere, then maybe we are better off getting behind him and trying to support him rather than. But it's just such a hard thing to do, especially as I say, when Adam's right. The players we've got on the pitch, I don't think are a worse team than the opposition we're playing against. Just a simple fact. And again, as you say, Rafa Benitez getting a tune out of Townsend, who was getting let go by Crystal Palace. Who I would say Everton are in a better position and a better team. To pick up a player from a side who really I think could have absolutely done with them. They've said, I'm going to let him go, and he's managed to get 5 goals in 7 games or whatever he's done. Sean Longstaff was a £40 million player 4 years ago. Now he's worth about 50p. This is where we've dropped to, and it's the same team. So you've got to look and go, well, it must be Bruce. And in terms of replacements, as I say, again, it's going to need to be another yes man. It's not going to be a manager who's necessarily going to get the fans excited. I think Eddie Howe, I think a few years ago, after seeing what he did at Bournemouth, did get people excited. But now you're thinking he's been out for a bit, and is he actually going to make us any better? I think I would still go down the route of younger manager. I don't know if Lampard would definitely necessarily be the guy that I want, but someone who's actually going to come in and try and innovate and try and do something, kind of like what Graham Jones is already doing for us on the sideline, is trying to actually put across like a more modern view of what we should be doing, rather than just sending the players out with no idea where to stand and just say, have a good go, lads, because that feels like that's what we're doing. I mean, I might be doing Bruce disjustice. Who knows? Maybe he's got his whiteboards with all his plans written down and the players aren't doing them. It could be that. As I say, if the players are done with the scenario and they don't want to play for him anymore, maybe they're just literally not listening to him. But the way it looks at the minute is we'll just walk out onto a pitch with no game plan and just wander around and hope that the ball hits the back of the net. Again, it's tough. We are not going to have a long list of managers lining up to take the job. That's the big part of it. And although I think having someone like Lampard to come in and try something new would be good, he's not going to get any money. He's going to be working with the same players. You'd like to hope he would get a better tune, but it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Lampard. I mean, he worked wonders with that Derby side he had, and he had like two key loan players. He had Harry Wilson and Mason Mount, didn't he? And I mean, like I wouldn't mind to see Lampard come in. I think we do need, after having a fossil like Bruce's manager, I think we do need someone refreshing and younger to come in, and who's probably more upbeat with this style of play. You mentioned Eddie Howe as well. We've yet to see Ryan Fraser at his best since we've brought him in. Yes, he was a free signing, but we were all buzzing when we brought him in, because he was in brilliant form for Bournemouth and thought he was going to be a really good signing, but haven't seen anything of him. The only thing he has done for the club is broke the record of smallest Premier League player to be sent off. Adam, who would you ideally like to see come in, maybe in a realistic fashion?
Well, I mean, we said this already. Eddie Howe and Lampard are probably the only two half-decent realistic ones you can get in. But I talk about Graham Jones quickly. I mean, yeah, obviously a lot of people could... I mean, it's obvious to see that him and Steve Bruce don't like each other. You see each other on the sidelines, constantly disagree. They're always talking over each other. I mean, yeah, I've got to criticise him as well, though, because he's came in to help this club out. And let's be real, we've won 5 of our last 35 games of our competitions. I mean, he's the one that's in the training ground. He's the one that's getting these players going. He's the one that's trying to sort out the problems and trying to work out the best 11. I mean, he's not doing a good job, is he? Let's be honest. I mean, yes, he's working with rubbish, let's be honest, but at the same time, I mean, nothing's improved. Like, what has changed this season? We are a worse team than we were last year. I mean, this is the guy who just came off the Euros. I mean, best England team last 55 years or something. I mean, he should have something going into this season, but we have nothing. We have nothing going forward. I mean, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I can't sort of speculate, but I don't know. He's not really doing anything for the job he's came in for. That's what I will say about him. But in terms of managers, though, I prefer Lampard over Howe. I think I want to try something different. I think Eddie Howe, yes, he's a manager that's done wonders at Bournemouth, but we're not a League One team or a Championship team. We are a Premier League team, and I mean, eventually did get Bournemouth relegated. I mean, yeah, I just don't really want him. I'll be honest. I prefer Lampard. At least he's someone that, of course, is a Champions League winner. He's a captain. He's a leader. I mean, I want to try something different. I think he would be a player that could motivate the players and get them going.
Yeah, it's just, I can't believe it. Well, I can't. It's Newcastle, but no team should be looking. How many games are we in now? And talking about replacement of managers, and it's just, you mentioned the training ground, Adam, and that's one thing we do know behind the scenes is how outdated our facilities are compared to the rest of the Premier League teams. I don't know if you've seen the footage of Leicester's new training complex. It's amazing. But it's like the foundations of a house, and that's, say this is at the top of your club, that's what we're built on, is Mike Ashley, Bruce, and this outdated training facilities, and it just does feel like this is the season those foundations are going to go and the house is going to collapse in on itself. If we are to go down, Rob, what would be? I mean, Christ, we shouldn't be talking about this early on in the season. But if the worst was to happen and we went down, do you think we could bounce straight back up?
Honestly, I don't know. I think last time round, Ashley knew what he wanted, and it was for the team to be back in the Premier League as quickly as possible before he started losing money. I just feel like with what everything's happened since last relegation, with the arbitrations and the Premier Leagues, and who knows, maybe when we're not in the Prem, maybe they'll be allowed to buy us then, and then we could have a new owner within 2 days of getting relegated. You know, it'd be fair, if you offered me that option now, I'd be very tempted to just say, yeah, let's do it. Because again, with where we are now, we're just treading water and we've been doing it for far too long. I think I'd honestly be happy to take a gamble and say, right, we'll go down if the Saudis bought us, they would have no problem getting back up. The amount of money, hopefully, that they would throw at it. You know, that's the risk, really. If you could promise us that we'd get relegated, they'd buy us, and then they'd spend 200 million, then I'd absolutely go for it. If you said they'll get relegated, then they'll buy us, again, there's no guarantee that, you know, what they'll actually do when they get here. But I think I'd be willing to take the risk. I think if it went down and no one did buy us, I think we'd probably just have the same team again and actually would just roll the dice on the fact that the players that we do have would be enough to get us back up. They were good enough 4 years ago, 5 years ago. We've got the same players, you know, so hopefully they can do it again. But yeah, as I say, I mean, the other thing about Bruce and with the January window and stuff, you know, I do actually think that, I think the minute we don't buy anyone, everyone points the finger at Ashley, and I think that is the top and bottom of it. But in terms of like loan signings, you know, we'll talk about Chowdhury, we'll talk about Townsend on a free, you know, Rondon, you know, Gary Cahill, you know, he was free to go, and I think he went to Bournemouth or something. Not to say that I think he's probably got the legs to help us, but I mean, it's a free player, and when we're lacking, I actually do think Bruce was in the window for these kind of players, and I think Ashley probably would have put the money up to bring loans in just to help the team. But Newcastle isn't a good prospect for a manager or a player, and I don't think Bruce has got the pull either. You know, the big thing of Rafa bringing in people like Rondon and Townsend is because it's, first of all, a team that's trying to go somewhere, but I think it's a manager people can actually trust and know that they're going to get something from being there. I think people look at the prospect of coming to us playing for Bruce and think, I'd rather not bother.
Yeah, you're talking about the pull there, and I think probably the main pull for Joe Willock coming was probably Graham Jones being involved with the England setup. But I think I saw something that he's maybe stepping down from his England role now to concentrate more on the club while we're struggling. But yeah, like I say again, I think for a prospect buyer of the club, I think you've got to spend so much money. We do need someone like the Saudis that are going to come in to buy, because you need to buy a new training complex, so many players you need to buy a new manager contract. He's going to want to bring new staff in. It's not just the price of buying the club, it's the price of things you're going to have to buy straight away when you come into the club as well. Look, lads, we'll come to a close. I'll get you score predictions for the next game, and we can be done with Newcastle for the rest of the week, because I think we'll
2 weeks in national break.
Adam, you seem to give me faith going into these Newcastle games, and I wish you'd stop, because I just have me heart broken at the end of every game. What's your score prediction for the Spurs game?
Well, I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed, because I think we're going to win. Tottenham, I mean, like I've said, it all depends on whether Tottenham's going to be ready for the game or not. Let's just hope that the international break, they get destroyed, the players are just going to be down. But this is a team that's lost the last 3 games in a row. They're playing away at Newcastle. St James's Park is still a hard place to play at, despite how rubbish the team is. So, yeah, 2-1 Newcastle. Just hope we get a win. I mean, Wilson will be back. Hopefully, he'll kick it on.
Rob?
Yeah. Again, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know why we do it. I don't get how we managed to come up with these weird and wonderful ways that we're somehow going to turn it around and do something. But I'm gonna back the positive side as well, and I'm going to say we're going to win it 1-0. As you say, I think Spurs are on a down and they have lost the last 3. And as I say, for whatever reason, we'll like to turn up and play against the big teams. As I say, we'll play someone. It's like that season when we gave Derby 6 points when they got relegated with about 7. You know, we'll play the teams around us and we turn up presumably thinking we're going to walk it, and then we get stuffed. I think the players are going to know this will be a tough game. They're going to know they're playing against a side who's down on the luck. Harry Kane is not playing well this season. I think it's a chance to do something. So yeah, I'm going to say 1-0 to us. Wilson comes back and gets a goal. I'm
gonna back you, Rob. I think you're right about when we play the bigger teams. I think that the players come out with the attitude they've got nothing to lose, so go for it. I think I'm going to back you with 1-0. I'm going to back the positive side, and hopefully, if we're all positive, maybe something will happen. And I think it's going to be Joe Linton. I'm going to back J7 to score. I'll not put a bet on it, because that would be wasting money. But hey-ho. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us this morning. I know it's been another early one for the Behind the Leazes podcast. Adam, Rob, thanks as always for joining us, and we'll see you back after the international break. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.